I've been in dogs since 1991. We breed dogs that we want to train. I was out here in western Nebraska riding Harleys and training dogs. I don't sugarcoat anything, and if you don't like it, tough.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Flatlander Kennels Podcast with Chris Jobman. We are back again today for a little Q&A session. How's it going today, Chris?
It's going well. How are you, buddy?
Pretty good. What's going on out the kennels?
We are in full swing. Tanner and Isaac are going to HRC tests. I'm going to master tests. We're getting ready to have our first test here at the kennel next week. It's going to be a 100-dog master over 3 days, and then we hit it. We hit it hard. We had lots of tests coming up. I got to get qualified for the Master National with some of these dogs, and we're a little bit behind on that just because the Grand was so late. So it hurt us on getting dogs qualified, and we're kind of under the gun on this deal. So there's some young dogs that need to have a really good record to qualify. But the tractor motor, I think, pretty much blew up the other day. So I had to buy a new tractor and mower. Was
Grant sitting on it when that happened?
No.
Thank God.
He wasn't anywhere. He may not even get to touch this new mower, this new tractor. This one.
That is not his fault.
No. It's we're not sure about that, but the tractor motor it needed replaced, and I'm like, I'm not going to do that. So we bought a new tractor, new big bush hog with 15-foot bush hog with bat wings. So, but we're pretty busy right now.
Awesome. Well, we got our fifth pass. Tizon you would have been so proud of Eric. He was right behind me, giving me hell right in the middle of the whole run. He's giving me hell he's standing 5 feet away from me, just talking trash the whole way. I think the word weak link came out a couple times. I was like, yeah, you would be so proud of him. But she passed. I didn't have to handle on any series at all. She nailed it.
That's great. That's awesome. I think he's coming out. He's bringing a crew out to run that master test next week, and I think he gets here on Sunday night, and we're going to train on Monday and start running the test on Tuesday.
Awesome, man. These 100-dog masters for an amateur with one dog are grueling.
I know. I know. It's a long wait, but it's close to your house for that one, so that wasn't too bad.
Yeah, and the one we've got this week, there's only 32 dogs entered in it. So they're going to knock that out.
Where are you going this week?
Unadilla or UNADILLA, Nebraska.
Southeast Nebraska. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I've been up there for a couple of HRC tests. So I don't know why there's only 32 dogs. I don't know. We'll have to see. But that's her. She gets that one, and we'll have that title. Or did I say that'd be her sixth one? So
I hope you get it. That would be great.
And then we just need one more. We're going to try, like I said, we're hoping to qualify for that Master National Amateur. And then I'll probably scream out there in June and say, can you fix all these problems for me, please? Fix them. Fix these problems.
Yeah. So when is that? I call it.
I think it's late June. I think it's Senior National. I thought they called it Master Amateur.
They do. I call it Senior Nationals, though, just for I like to give everybody
just to give people like me a hard time.
Yeah. I know it's harder than that, but I like to give grief to people for it. But
what is the difficulty level? Is it about the same as the Master National, or is it a step down?
I don't know. I've never been there. I have no idea. I mean, it has to be pretty difficult. I mean, because it's a national event, so they can't skip. But I've never seen one. I don't know, but I'm sure it's right up there with the Master National. Yeah, but I like to give people grief about it.
Well, that's fine. Once you need to, you tease everyone. So if you're not teasing me, then I figure there's some type of problem with our relationship.
If I'm not teasing you or giving you a hard time, that means I don't like you.
I used to I remember one time in my life, I told someone that I was like, man, if I'm not giving you a nickname, I don't like you. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, that person doesn't have a nickname. I just told them right to their face, I don't like them. I need a nickname for you. I don't know. I don't have a nickname for, I just told you I have a nickname for you.
I have lots of nicknames, but we can't say them on the air. Trust me.
Right. Yeah, it's late June is when it is. And I figure, hey, I kind of thought we'd get the HRC and AKC titles and just kind of do a couple every summer just for fun. But I figure, hey, it's in June. Why not at least go up there and
Are you this year?
give it
This
a shot?
year?
No, next June.
Next
It
year.
would be next
year.
June.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. So we got to
Well,
go 4 for 4.
You'll be all right. You got plenty of. You can come out here in July. There are all kinds of tests out here.
Yeah, I'm eyeballing that. The next one I was thinking of is a little closer. It's on the 25th of July. I'm traveling so much. I'm trying not to put in another long trip on, but I know you guys have that one in mid-July.
Yeah, we have two
I've
of
got
them.
them on my
We
calendar.
have 2 doubles in mid-July, back-to-back weeks. So
Yeah, have those opened up yet?
no, not yet, not yet. The one that we have next week here, it's got like 90 some dogs in it. It closes tonight. I've got to enter some Tanner, my young dog guy. He's got some young dogs. He's got some really nice finished dogs on his truck that don't have their finished titles, and we usually don't do this, but they don't quite have their finished titles yet. But they're ready to run master as long as the test isn't too crazy. They're ready to run master, and it's here at the kennel. So it really helps. There's no expenses. The only expenses there are is handling and entry fee. And so there's no travel expenses, nothing like that. So it's the cheapest test I can run all year. So I like to run them young dogs here at the kennel if we can.
Yeah. If we don't pass this weekend, then I'll probably enter into that
July.
mid out at your place. If we pass it, then I've got a closer one on the 25th. And I don't want to even tell you about what I'm doing in July, where I'm going and what I'm scouting for.
I'm going scouting for teal. I'm going scouting for teal. I know what you're doing. You're probably coming into Nebraska to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the name of the lake off air. But if we don't pass this Friday, I'll probably enter in that mid-July one. I love Nebraska so much. I wish that I was like 5 hours away from like you and other areas in Nebraska I love instead of 8. He's just annoying.
8's a piece of cake. I drive that sleeping.
Yeah, well, you drive everywhere all the time. You just get on the road and go.
I know. I'm on the road. Well, let's get into some questions and try to bang some of these out.
All right. And remember, guys, you can submit questions at the Flatlander Kennels Podcast Instagram account. Go over and sign up over there where you'll get just shorts, little segments, 30-minute segments from each podcast. You can submit questions there to me, and I'll pass them on to Chris, or you can go to the Facebook podcast group and submit questions over there. So let's start with Walter Brown. He asks, after watching a few Dog of the Day videos, I'm interested in learning more about how Chris handles dogs at the line and the communication he has with them. First, does he have them heel even with his leg or with their head a little bit ahead of his leg? 2, in HRC test, does he have some kind of pattern or rhythm on how he shucks the gun, moves from mark to mark, etc.? 3, and we can go back over 1, 2, and 3 so don't forget it. I moved this one around. This one for you is farther down for me. It's at the top. Number 3, is there a drill that he would recommend for teaching the dog how to swing with the gun? Let me know if you need me to review the 1, 2, and 3 part.
Okay, let's break it down into sections. Give me the first section and I'll answer it.
Does he have them? Okay. Okay, let's talk about the communication. He wants to know how you handle the dog in the line as far as your communication.
Okay, I do. So I have a lot of people ask me about that actually, but I talk to them. I do talk to. I communicate a lot with my dogs, and it's a number of different ways. There's voice, there's body language, there's your hand, there's your feet. There's that's how dogs communicate. Is all the little subtle things. And I do communicate a lot, and most people ask me if I say things. I don't communicate loudly. I keep it pretty low, and I don't over communicate. And what I mean by that is I don't do the Elliott to them. Here, heel, sit, give, hold. I don't do that.
Why not? Come on, that's the right way.
It's gibberish. They don't
You're making a mistake if you're not doing that.
Okay, perfect. But I don't do the Elliott. So that's a lot of amateurs over communicate, and the reason why they do it is they don't even know they're doing it, but they have nerves. and that's how they're getting their nerves out. Okay. When I communicate, I want it to mean something, so I don't over communicate, but I still communicate. So let's just say we're running an HRC test, and you got to turn to the right, so it's here, and then on your left-hand heeling dog, and it's heel on your, turn them to the left, and like a short check down bird, I don't put my hand down. I don't put my hand down on a short check down bird because that's another form of communication. That means you're not going very far. Then I'll say, easy. Where's that bird? Where's that bird? Easy, 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 easy. And I'll do that until I see them relax. I'll do that until they relax, and I'll kick them off. Now, I know there's some people out there that say way out. I don't do that. If it's a longer punch bird, I drop my hand. I say, where's that mark at? But when I communicate with them, when I say like the easy command, I'm giving them a soft command like flash. Or I want to do a longer bird. I put my hand down. I'll go, Vader. I draw it out. And that tells them to go longer without saying like way out, that sort of thing. So we communicate with a lot of voice inflection. And you could communicate any way you want. I mean, heck, I know and I've never done it, but I know for a fact, like say you're trying to teach a down the shore water blind, and I've never done this, but it's Pavlov's theory. It's simple. If you say every time you run a down the shore water blind, if you say down the shore, they're going to understand what that means. I'm firmly convinced that. Or you could say on the point, and every time you say that, they get on the point, and they'll start learning that, but that's going to take a long time to do. So
a lot of repetition, probably.
Lots of it. I'm talking tons of it. But there's so many ways you can communicate to your dog, and there's also you can over communicate too. And then if you over communicate, then when you actually do communicate, they don't even hear it because you've been talking the entire time. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. I was watching Eric Tizon again run at this last master, and you guys obviously have a lot of similarities to how you go about things. And
I'm a lot better looking and taller.
Oh, by the way, did you see the picture of him standing on another guy's shoulders to handle a dog?
He was on Brian Tucker's shoulders. I was dying.
Is that not the funniest thing you've ever seen?
Said that to me, and I was dying. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's we need
that.
Crew.
We need that for the Instagram. If you have that, please.
I have the picture. I
can't remember who showed it to me, but I saw it.
Oh,
I was
it's great.
dying.
It's great.
But the point I was going to make is that I don't see a lot of people doing the soft, quiet talking. Maybe I'm not paying attention enough. But in doing that, both of you talked about bringing the dog to relax. Both of your body language when you do it is so relaxed and calm.
Yes.
And it's interesting to hear. I've never heard you actually say, I watch for them to relax. And that's really interesting to me.
And they'll tell you when they're ready to go. Like they'll hold their breath, or you'll see their shoulders like slump down. Like their body isn't it's not as tense. Mm-hmm. And in order to pick up a short check down bird, you've got to be the dog has got to be relaxed and free thinking, because if they're overly tense and you like Georgie, they're going to take off running and they're going to completely miss it. So mm-hmm. you've got to communicate that, and you've got to read the body language. And I've said this before on the podcast where everybody's like, "Oh, my dog lied to me." They don't lie to you. Dogs aren't built that way. You just missed the cues that the dog was telling you. So, and you'll know it if you pay attention enough. But that's also, how you become a good dog trainer is you've got to, and this stuff comes naturally to a lot of us that have been doing it for so long. You've got to touch dogs. You've got to run a pile of dogs. And like the other day, I had Tanner and Isaac training together, and I let Isaac take my entire trailer out. So go run marks and blinds, and him and Isaac work together. And Isaac works for me, part-time, and he runs dogs for us and does a great job. But he's learning. He's not here all the time. He's part-time. So the days that he's here, I try to give him, touch as many dogs as he can. And he's great at asking questions and figuring it out. And I just said, go out and have fun. The setup wasn't overly hard. It was singles with a couple blinds and in the hay bales. And he learned a lot that day. And the dogs that he was running, you're not going to break them. they're pretty dang good, and they were teaching him a lot of things.
Let's move on with this same question to another point he's asking about mechanics. Do you have the dogs heel even with your leg, or with their head a little bit ahead of your leg?
I think I said this on one other podcast one time. I like to get back by their back withers or their hips. And I like to now, if a dog is out of control and he's too much, you need to reel him back in. But if it's a normal dog with average go and, he's not overly crazy, I like to get back on them, get out of their damn way. That way, if you need to pull them right or left, push them left, they can move. Their shoulders and head can go right or left, or their front feet. If you're up on top of them tight, like their head, when they're young, I've noticed when they're young, and they're a little bit nervous about going on a blind, or they're a little bit nervous about the deal. And there's some point in a dog's life and I always say that you want the dog running to the bird because it wants to run the bird, not away from you. But at some point in these dogs' life, they are going to be running away from you because that's just a stage of training that they're in. So with them dogs, if you do that a lot, if you get up too close to them on their head, when they leave their first initial line, say you're trying to run at 12 o'clock, their first initial line is to 11 o'clock because they're just pushing off of you. Does that make sense? If you get back up a little bit and give them their shoulders and give them their space, they'll run a lot better, a lot more confident, and they'll run straighter lines, take better lines.
Last part of this, two more parts of this question. Do you have a pattern or rhythm with how you shuck the gun in HRC from mark to mark?
It depends. It's dog dependent, and what I mean by that is I usually go boom, I go boom, and then I'll turn, and then before that mark comes out, I shuck the gun to get them dogs to look out there. That's where they're looking. And when you shuck that gun forward, they look up, they know it's about ready to shoot off. So I'll go boom, shuck, I'll go shuck, and I'll turn, I'll go shuck, close it, then the mark will come out.
Right.
Now, if you have dogs whose line manners are less than desirable and they're a little bit crazy at the line, and everybody knows these dogs, you've seen them, or you even have one, where the second you go boom and you shuck, they're moving. They're instantly moving to look for the next mark. So they're so wound up. So you go boom, and the second you shuck, they move, and they don't even know where they're moving to. They're just moving because you shucked the gun. With those dogs, I'll go boom and I'll shuck. I'll go boom. I'm talking as fast as possible. They have no idea I shucked. They got no clue. So I shoot and shuck almost at the same time, and it's the same sound. So then when I move to the next mark, they're not creeping, they're not going crazy because they don't even know I shucked. So that stimulus of me shucking the gun is gone because it's all one sound, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So with Georgie, she creeps a little bit, but sometimes she doesn't swing. Which of those would I do? The first one that you said, I shuck, I swing, and then shuck because I want that noise because I'm afraid she gets so intent on a mark, she's just like almost shaking. She's locked into one.
Yep. And the second you shuck, she's probably turned to look for the next mark.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the right thing to do with her. Now, if she's creeping way out in front of you, then I would maybe go to shoot and shuck as quickly as possible, and then use your heel and hear commands to turn her. But if that's working and I'm talking 95% of the dogs that I run, I shoot and I shuck real slow to the next mark. There's a handful of dogs here that I got to shoot and shuck at the same time, and I've just figured that out over time. That helps them a lot. It helps their line manners because they're not those dogs like that their line manners aren't the greatest because they're so wound up. They think everything's a single anyway. Like they're like, I gotta go. So when you do that, they think maybe it's a single, then you just go to the next market. Oh, there's another one, So you kind of surprise them on that. But that seems to help them. Now, in training, I don't do that. In training, I shoot, shuck slow, and turn because I want that shoot and shuck really fast to be a surprise to them, and not so they don't get used to that and they start having bad line manners even when I'm doing that. In training, I can control what to do at the line. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So in training, that's my default. That's my trump card is to shoot and shuck really fast, only at a test, not in training.
And you have all that about each dog in your notes, right?
I have.
And as you
in
grab
my
a dog,
head, I can tell you who they are
Jeez.
right now.
Man, that's just you have
And
to have
if you
such
screw
a great
up, and if
memory
those dogs
for.
like that at a test, if you screw up, you could fail. If you don't remember that, like at the Grand especially, if you don't remember that, you could fail for line manners.
Yeah.
So you got to be really paying attention to what you got going on.
And is there a drill that you would recommend for teaching dogs how to swing with the gun?
You could do bucket drills where you sit on a bucket or a chair and you just turn and hear and heel, and you can have a little tab on your collar, and when you turn to the left, you pull them back, you say heel, go to the right, say here. But what I started doing is in training is I started doing this is even when they're young and they're teaching them to swing with a gun in the field, I give them sound for everything. So the first mark out, I'll have somebody go quack, 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 maybe even go boom, and then throw the bird, and I'll shoot that mark. Then I'll shuck the gun, and then let's just say that mark was at 10 o'clock. And the next mark is coming out at 3 o'clock. So when I shoot that mark, I have them pointed at about 12 o'clock. So I don't want them moving a ton, but I have them pointed at 12 o'clock. So then when I turn to the 3 o'clock one, I'll have that thrower make a bunch of noise and shoot, and then they'll turn with me. And when I do that, I don't use a gun. I use a wooden gun. I don't shoot. All I'm getting is turning. And so I use that sound in the field to get them to turn and pay attention and look down the barrel. So
do you ever use guns? I've never seen you use a gun and chuck shells out there. Do you? You don't ever do it?
I very seldom do it. Most of these dogs, I think a lot of these dogs struggle with their hearing, especially the HRC dogs that get trained a lot in HRC, and I think it hurts their ears. I mean, I'm telling you, them little things are loud, and we're trying to save the ears. You got hunting and you got that, so everything hurts your ears. So we don't shoot a ton. Just I think that hurts. I think it bothers them after a while.
This question is from Dan Jurgens. Question about the Grand. Do you talk to your dog once at the bucket and you're ready for the birds? Hear or heel to push or pull them? What about the use of a whistle or verbal sit when running the upland portion?
Okay, so at the Grand, you got to be careful. You can talk to your dog at the Grand, but it cannot be excessive. And what I mean by that is it's not heel, 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 here. It can't be obsessed. It can't be too much. I do talk to him only if I have to talk to him. So if maybe let's just say the mark's coming out 9, 12, 3, and I'm pointing at 12, and maybe I got to point at 10 for the first mark out at 9. I'll shoot, and they'll see that. They say they see that mark, and if I got to go to 12 o'clock, a lot of times I don't say here because they'll over rotate and look too far to the right. So I shoot that, and I slowly move to 12 o'clock, and then when I have my gun pointed at 12 o'clock, and maybe it's a hard mark to see, I'll be like, mark, where's that bird? And they'll start looking for that bird, and I'll shoot. See what I'm saying? So You've got to be careful with over rotating and over talking to your dogs, just because they can move too much. I try not to talk to them as much as I possibly can, just because I think they tune it out. And then at the Grand, you also got to be careful. If your dog is creeping forward at the Grand and you say sit or hear or heel or no or do anything to stop that forward momentum, you're out. It's called a control break. They don't allow control breaks at the Grand. So you've got to be really careful. So at the Grand, if your dog is creeping out, you can't say anything to them. You just got to hope they stop. Okay? Once they stop on their own, you can talk to them. Then you can say heel and bring them back and then turn. But you got to be careful how much they're moving. So, yeah, I do talk to them. Now, if they're not seeing a mark, I go, here, and they'll look over there. And judges know that when if a dog is not turning with you and you go, here, you're not you're not being intimidating, but you're just trying to get them to look. There's a difference between here, heel, then here. It's a different mentality. It's a different thought process. It's a different voice inflection. And if you're just really loud and intimidating the whole entire time, they know that. They're not stupid. They know that. If they were on here, they know you're just trying to get the dog to see the mark. That's it. So you got to be
When do
careful
they give
with
you
that.
their feedback? Do they tell you immediately?
No.
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 You wait till the end of the
if
day.
you're out, they will. They'll say, "Go ahead and put
Right.
your dog on lead. You didn't make it." But usually, you'll if you run your test, your dog. Let's just say your dog crept out with a little bit an idiot at the line, but you pinned all the marks, so you got a really, really good blind, and you got a 1 and a 1. You got a 1 and 1 for line manners because that's the only thing you get it for. So you know going into it, and the Grand has gotten so much better. And my hat's off to Tracy Tubb, Mike Botts, and the entire crew over there. They've gotten so much better at allowing us to be handlers and running our dogs and staying out of it. Back in the day, your dog crept a foot or two, you're out. Your dog walked the line and got in front of you and got to the bucket before you, you're out. They've gotten so much better at letting your dog be a dog. Now, there's a little bit, there's too much is too much, but they've done so much better of a job. And back in the day, a long time, not that long ago, a lot of the grand dogs that you saw go to the line, they looked intimidated walking to the line because we had to be so vigilant on their line manners that we took a little bit out of them just for that very reason, because they had to be so perfect at the line. You don't have to be perfect anymore. You've got to be really good, but you don't have to be perfect. So now you're seeing some of these dogs, their fire is back, and all these super hard charging dogs, they're back. Back in the day, like I said, you used to see more of a timid type dog there because their line manners had to be so tight. So they've done a really good job.
That's more enjoyable for a spectator. I'm sure that's more enjoyable. Yeah,
it's way better. It's way better. Now, too much of a good, too much is too much, and you know it. But they allow moving and they'll allow a little bit of noise. I mean, it's gotten so much better.
The judges at the Grand don't go with the group. They're on like if it's banded whatever, then that's the judges are there at that all.
They stay on their test. Yeah, they don't ever move.
Okay,
and that's what's so unique about the Grand compared to the Master National. Those judges know every pitfall. They know every. I mean, the dog goes around that tree, it's not coming back. I mean, they know what's about to happen before it even happens because they've seen a 900 dogs run the damn thing.
Right. Yeah.
So
I wonder if they have to really strive over a long days to be consistent with what they see, or if dogs' behavior kind of start. Yeah, that would be hard.
They
would
do
really be hard.
And the judging criteria changes from day to day. It changes from hour to hour. And it's just human nature. It's just human nature that if our flight dogs come into the Grand or whoever's flight gets to the Grand and they go to their test and they just start hammering the test, and that whole flight of dogs is really good and they're hammering the test, and I don't think they necessarily do it, on purpose, but subconsciously you're going to tighten up your standard just because the dogs are so much better and you just happen to tighten it up. And they don't even mean to.
Yeah. It would be impossible not to. I mean, that would be a really tough job. Yeah. All right, let's move to Jeff Schwartz's questions. When should he use a verbal backcast versus nonverbal? Just starting to listen to your podcast, currently on episode 14. Love how you are educating us. Thank you, Jeff.
Voice drives. And voice drives to momentum, and it really drives the crappy momentum. I try to keep everything I have relatively voice-free and silent, but if you need a back to go straight back or push through something, you can use a verbal back to get them to go. Or if they're in an old fall area or they're hunting a little bit on a blind, blow the whistle, back, just get them out of there. I try to not be very verbal when it comes to all that, just because verbal drives and usually drives it into a bad place. So I try to be silent on everything. And anytime you want a change of direction, I keep all my dogs between 10 and 2. Everything's an angle. And even with the advanced dogs, when you give a straight back, that straight back goes away. They give you about 10%. So you've got to keep everything from about 10 to 2. And I don't ever do a verbal over. I don't care what anybody says. I watch it every damn day, the test. Over! They go straight back. over. They go straight back. That's what I'm talking about. Verbals drive to crappy momentum, and they drive to where they want to go. So if you have a dog that's digging and scalloping on your blinds all the time, and you give a verbal over, they're going to go straight back. It doesn't. And the louder you say over, it doesn't get better. It gets worse. So I try to keep everything relatively silent. And if you need a straight back, or you need to get the dog just to move and get going, if it's a younger dog, then I'll do verbals too, just to get them going. But I try to be silent when they get older.
So if you're doing, let's say, 100-yard blind at a typical test, whether it's AKC or whatever, how many whistles are you going to, if they're within 10 and 2, at how many whistles are you going to feel disappointed about how that dog ran it?
Depends on the dog. If it's a Vader Flash type dog, if I've got and it all depends on. I've ran some blinds that were 65 yards at the Grand that took 7-8 whistles, just because there's so much to go through, logs and trees and stuff like that. But if it's just a normal little lamb blind, it's a 150-yard lamb blind, not a whole lot to it. That's about 2 or 3 whistles at the most. At the most, usually. A lot of times it'll be 1, but I don't really count whistles. I want to see really crisp whistle sits, and I want to see some change of direction and get to there, smoothly. I don't want to see, when they get older, I don't want to see the zigzaggy like this. Right. I want to see the smooth. And when you see a dog and a handler run, and you're like, that was smooth. And that's good. That's a good thing. So
that's what we've got to somehow transition into, is more of that smoothness, because we're always in between that 10 and 2, and we're not getting cast refusals. But I need to make the next jump from 5 whistles to 3.
It'll happen. It'll happen. And I do a lot of bumping and sliding. So what I mean by that is I'll give a straight right back, but I'll slide my body to the right. And that means when I do that, and you've been out here, that means just to bump a little bit. Just, that means you just go a little bit and, do the left hand one and slide. That means just go a little bit. That doesn't mean I don't want a 45. I want just a little bump over, and then level out and go.
Yeah. I need to trim up. I need to video a lot more of my hand signals. Cause I was watching a clip, someone's videoing me, and it's like, she was going pretty much exactly the angles that I was telling her to, but I was given too exaggerated of angles.
Yeah.
It's like, I think I need to be more careful about my angles. Anyway.
Yeah. And that's, and I see a lot of people do that. They, we'll film them, and I'll say, give a right straight back, but slide right straight back, slide right. And they'll give a 45 and slide. And they're like, oh, I'm like, that's the cast you gave them.
Right.
Because it's, to go straight up, even if you go like this, that's 20 degrees. They're going to take 20 degrees, especially if you slide. Now they're going to take 40. So if you go straight back with a slide, they'll give you 10, 15, 20 degrees. That's what you want.
Yep. All right, Will Dennis, I have a 21-week-old British Lab. Thinking ahead, I'm hesitant to force fetch him. I'm confident in my ability to put him through a good force fetch program. He's a little soft and doesn't have extreme drive for a bumper. He does go crazy for the clipped wing pigeons, though. I can get him to heel and sit with a pigeon or bumper, but I'm trying to make retrieving all fun right now. He's never going to compete in any fashion, but he will duck hunt a lot. Is there any alternative to force fetch? I would like him to learn to deal with pressure, and I'd like him to deliver to hand. Do you think I should force fetch him anyways?
Absolutely. I think every dog, I honestly, I firmly believe every dog should be force fetched. I've trained a pile of British Labs. I got the best one ever to live, Shaker. I've trained a pile of British Labs. We've been very successful with them, and we take them through our entire program. Now, maybe it may take a little bit longer to go through force fetch and stuff, but if you don't force fetch that dog, you can't use a force program. Which what I mean by that is you can't collar fetch, you can't force to pile, you can't water force, you'll never teach them to deal with pressure unless you force fetch that dog. If you're confident in your ability, then go ahead. And that he said he doesn't have a lot of desire for a bumper. That may change all of this. He may give him the whole purpose is like, okay, got it. I got to go because I've got to go get it. And let's be honest, if it's just going to be a hunting dog, you still want to run blind retrieves. You still want to have control. You still want to do all these things. And unless you do a force fetch program, you can't do any of it. I don't care what anybody says. I know the British guys don't. they like, oh, we're not force fetching. We're going to lead with the wrong hand on the right. I get all that, but I firmly believe any dog can be force fetched. Now you may have to go slower and a little easier, but it just takes some time. And if you're confident in it, go for it. I would.
And we have an entire episode on force fetch. In fact, we've got the entire flow chart. I need to update it. I mean, it's on the YouTube channel. The entire there's a playlist. I've posted it on the podcast group, but we've got all of the flow chart on a playlist, and there's one specifically about force fetch, and that's what I used was your audio of force fetch. That's the only thing that I used. And when I did it, and it's everything you need, I believe, to get it done.
Like I said, you just err on the side of caution, but the dog is going to have to understand pressure at some point. You might as well. Now that dog's only 21 weeks old. That dog's 5 months. I would wait. If that dog is more sensitive and timid, I would build more prey drive, and I would maybe force fetch a little bit later in its life, maybe 8, 9, 10, 11 months old. Wait till it's a little more mentally mature. Now, what I would not do is go teal hunting with this dog or duck hunting without it being force fetched, because now all you're doing is teaching bad habits that you're going to have to fix. Mm-hmm. So you need to make that decision on when you're going to hunt this dog, whether it's going to be force fetched or not.
Brock Harrison, what's the best way to fix a dog that is blowing through the whistle en route to the bumper? Which you already kind of addressed this. Hammering down on sit to pile with a check cord, whistle sit is a known skill. He just gets so amped when he locks in the bumper, I can't get him to stop from time to time. Follow up. Do you ever use the collar to reinforce whistle sit? I have already been through sit to pile last fall. However, I must not have been thorough enough. He whistle sits on a dime in all situations other than en route to a bumper.
So he doesn't whistle sit on a dime all the time, period. I always say this, if you don't have sit, you don't have shit. You need to go back to sit to pile with a rope. And then, like I said earlier in this other question, go back to pattern blind lining and casting and simplify his whistle sits up. And if it takes collar pressure, once you get him out of sit to pile with a rope, I would do sit to pile and then maybe sits and then stop him with the whistle and stop him with the rope, give him a little collar pressure, make him sit. So he understands what collar pressure is. You got to be careful giving collar pressure and sit to pile, because some dogs think they're being forced again. They go even faster. So teach them how to do that. And then I would use your collar pressure mostly in three-handed pattern blind lining and casting. So go back to sit to pile with the rope, go back to pattern blind lining and casting, and then if you need to use collar pressure, that's where I would do it, is during that phase. But you got to get him to stop.
For an amateur, could you do 2 15-minute sessions a day on this stuff?
100%, for sure. And Georgie's brother, Red, he's got his grand title, and he's on National Fast. He's a fantastic animal. But he runs his marks really, really hard and wide open, and then his blinds, he's a little bit slower on, about 50% of speed, because he was so tough as a young dog. Once we got out of pattern blinds, we couldn't get him to sit to the damn whistle. If he didn't want to sit, he wasn't going to sit. So it took a ton of collar pressure to get him to sit. But now he finally sits, but he looks a little, I don't want to say intimidated, that's not the right word, but he's very cautious on his blinds, because I've taught him how to listen to me and be a team player, but it took a ton of pressure to do it. So it took a little bit of his oomph out of his blind retrieve. Now, he runs plenty hard on him, don't get me wrong. But if you see him run, that's why, because I had to put a lot of pressure on him just to get him to sit, because he was so independent. But that's what makes him a great dog too. So
now I don't think that trait's not very common to that litter, is it?
It's not, no. But he's bigger than Flash. He's 80 pounds, and he's a beast.
Oh wow!
But yeah, he's a monster. But when he was so wound up when he was younger, that's what it took him to sit. So it took some steam out of him.
All right, next one, Stephen Hayes. We're in the midst of pattern blinds. Every once in a while, he'll pop on me about 10 to 15 yards from the line, and I'm talking like once every third sessions. What should I do to nip that in the butt?
A couple different things here. Maybe give him, more free runs without stopping him. maybe you are overhandling this dog too. I know it doesn't do it very often. He said every 3 sessions or so, but maybe the time before that you were overhandling him. You were trying to be too precise on your casting, and so now he's overthinking and he's popping a little bit. Maybe if your blind retrieves at 12 o'clock and he's at 1 o'clock and you have this, you have to stop him and put him back online at 12 o'clock. Don't stop him. Let him run at 1 o'clock. Let him build up some momentum. Then stop. And we've talked about this before. Let him get to the end of that blind, stop him, and then put him on it. Who cares about the line? If your dog is popping, let it, as long as they're not way off a line. Let's say your blind's at 12 o'clock and he's at 11 or he's at 1. That's not, if you've got a popping problem, that's not a big deal. Let him roll on that. That's going to give him confidence. If you're overhandling him, you're trying to win the blind retrieve, you're trying to keep him perfectly online, that's probably where you're getting your popping problem. And then, so let him roll a little bit. And then what you can do is before you see him pop, if you can notice that, and if he's been forced to pile properly, he's done all that stuff properly, that's where I would do a nick with a back and then get him going. So when you start seeing him slow down, nick, back, and then get him going again. Okay. Whatever you do, if he pops, do not blow the sit whistle. That's what he wants to do.
So how do you handle, what's the correct way to handle in training and in a test? What are the right way to handle a dog that pops?
Like I said, there are a couple different ways. Depends on the dog. If he's not offline very far, let him roll. But I usually do a nick with a back, nick with a verbal back. And now in a test, a popping's not, it's not desirable. In a test, you got to try to hide that pop a little bit. And what I mean by that is the second you see him starting to slow down, that he's going to pop, you blow the sit whistle and you cast out of it. That's the exact opposite what you want to do in training, but at a test, you're trying to pass. In training, you got to try to fix it. So there's 2 different ways to handle that. But it's not, blowing the sit whistle at a test before he pops, you are giving in to his desire to pop. But you have to pass the test. So you got to do what you got to do.
We're going to go to Austin Rao. Before that, I'm going to throw a question in there. And I don't know how much you're wanting to answer this one or not, but I'm hearing people talk and complain about the level of judging in the AKC Master test being too soft and too lenient. And I feel like I have seen it in at least one test. You're like, oh my gosh, they're letting every dog through. What are your thoughts about, do you feel like that in Master tests that some of the judges need to be a little more strict? Do you feel like they're right about where they should be? What is your opinion on that?
It all depends on the person, the dog, and the people who are going to be harder, the people are going to be a little bit softer. They're just human beings. There's some human beings that are control freaks and they're going to fix the AKC and they're going to throw these hard ass tests and we're going to judge the shit out of them and I'm going to have about 10% pass rate and we're going to fix it. That's not the right way. There's some people that they're in it for the dog. They want to see the dog run well. They want to see the dog pass. And it's in their nature to throw, I don't want to say easier test, but it's in their human nature to throw a test that is doable. Here's a problem that I see a lot, whether it's AKC or HRC, it doesn't matter. And I have been told this multiple times, when there's some judges out there that when they see a Chris Aiken or they see us or whoever it is that goes to a test, they're bringing their hammers to this test. I've got to amp up my game to challenge their dogs. That is the wrong.
As far as the setups or the judging?
The test itself. And the judging and the test itself, they see the dogs that are entered, so they're like, okay, we're going to throw it at him. I want to see I got to challenge his dogs. That's the wrong thing to do. Here's the thing. A well-trained amateur dog should have a chance to pass every single test.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to try to take out our big dogs or Chris's dogs or Eric's or Rest or whoever's, all you're going to do, especially if we come with our A team, there's not a whole lot you're going to be able to do. Period. I'm sorry, that's how it is. All you're going to do when that happens is you're going to hurt the amateur guy, and they're not going to pass. So now all you have is all pro dogs that are passing. That's not what you want. You're missing the point of the game. The point of the game is amateur dogs should be able to pass this test. A well-trained amateur dog should be able to pass a test. And when people do that and they say, we're going to put it on them, you're doing a disservice. All you're doing is you're alienating the amateur and it's not fun for them. That's not how it should be. Like I said, you're not going to get like Lyle Simon's A team or Clark's, or you're not going to get, or Stevens, you're not going to get their A team. They're going to pass. We are going to pass 75 to 90% of our dogs. If we bring our A team, that's all there is to it. You're going to hurt everybody else there.
At the same time, the amateurs that pass need to have good, well-trained dogs.
Correct. They do.
That bottom end can't be so low that you're watching dogs going, what the hell is that dog still in the third series?
Yeah, but here's the thing. The rules are out there, and everybody's standard is different. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying you have to be super high standard or super low standard, but it's just human nature that, you know what, I'm not an asshole. I like to see dogs run, and I want to pass them. And there's other amateurs, or there's other judges like, I'm going to get them. I hear it in setups all the time. Ooh, this will get them. Ooh, this will get them. Are you out to get them, or you want to see the dog do their thing? Right. That's a wrong mentality. And I can't stand that. Ooh, I'm going to get them. I can't stand that, because I'm a purist. I want to watch dogs run and go get marks and be happy and do all the things they like to do. And the judges out there, they're like, oh, I'm going to get them. They need to get out of the damn sport and go do something else. Because
in general, do you feel like most of the tests, the AKC tests that you see, you're fairly happy with how they're being judged?
Yeah, for most part. Now, I do have some judges on my no-no list that I will never run underneath them. I don't care if it's in my backyard. I'm never going to do it, just because they have the mentality like, I'm going to get them. For some reason, when it's HRC or AKC, in their mindset, it's like, I am going to improve the breed. I'm raising my standard to help the organization. And you're not. You're doing a disservice. And it's not a field trial. It's a hunt test. It's a standard. And it's funny. If you want the next standard, then you go run the Grand or run the Master National. The weekend tests are not supposed to be a Grand or a Master National. They're supposed to be a weekend test, period. And there's a lot of judges out there that cannot separate that. And that's the problem. Now, I don't ever feel a test is too easy, ever. And the reason why I say that is because I run the Grand and the Master National. I'm going to get a hard test eventually, and it's going to be a bitch. I like the softer test, because you got to understand something. When Tanner or Isaac go to an HRC test, they're not taking the 18. They're taking the season dog that just got their finish title, or the master dog, the young master dogs. Right now, there's a time and a place, and going into a test, and the judges, they're firm but they're fair. The grounds are hard. You're going to have a hard test because the grounds are tough. That's all there is to it. I just got home from Custer, South Dakota, running a master test, and we did really well. But it's the grounds at Dale's and Mary's are beautiful. It's the most prettiest place you ever see in your life. The grounds are hard. They run a hard test, but that's just the grounds. That's just all there is to it. So the judges were good. They're fair, and they threw a nice test. And I don't mind a weaker test, because here's the thing: if you want, these tests isn't hard enough, then go run field trials or the SRS. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
That's a good answer.
So
That's a good
don't
answer.
care. And you can't compete just like, Georgia passed the test. Oh, this test was too easy. I mean, I know you don't say that, but you know what? Take it. Take your ribbon. Say thank you. Go home, because you're going to run a test, or you're going to be pissed because it's too hard. And those people are like, that test is too hard. Well, what do you want?
I have really liked the AKC setups. I've really enjoyed them. There has been at least one I've been at that I was like, well, it seems like maybe they're being a little too soft on a lot of these dogs.
Yeah, but who cares? Because you're going to run down the next test maybe really, really hard. So you just take what you can get and be happy with it.
I do really love the technical nature. When I walk up to a test and I see it, I want there to be one thing in there at least that I'm worried about. I want to be like, oh man, I want to be strategizing. I want to be, and I feel like with the AKC setups, you get that. You're going to get some cheaty stuff. You're going to get some stuff that makes it, for me, a little more fun.
That's because you don't have to answer to anybody.
Right. Well, true. I got
you don't have to make that phone call like, hey, I'm sorry he went out in third series really hard. And you can only say that so many times until they don't believe you. So
yeah,
that's because that's the people that say that. Oh, I want a hard test. They don't have to answer to anybody. They don't have to.
Well,
make
I'm not
phone
saying
call.
A hard test necessarily, but something when it's a little more technical, I find it a little more fun.
For sure, and I enjoy if I've got my A team, I enjoy the tests that I had to work through. Like our first series at the Grand we talked about in the recap, that made me be a dog handler. I mean, I told my wife, I'm like, I worked my ass off today because I had to be a dog handler and I had to think about it. And I actually had a lot of fun doing it because I had to think and work so hard. Now, do I want to do that every day? No, I don't. But that was kind of fun. But it's not fun answering why your dogs failed either. But people that want hard tests, they don't have anybody to answer to.
Oh, you're going to love this. One of the tests I was at, there was an owner there, and I didn't hear what he was saying, but people were talking about it, and he was pissed off at the trainer, and he was talking trash in the background and throwing a fit about it. And I don't know the person's name. I don't know any of them. I just thought, man, this guy.
Welcome to our world. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there.
I don't want any part of that. I don't want any part of something like that.
That is our world in a nutshell. Now, most of my clients aren't like that. I got fabulous clients, but there are a few out there. But that's our life in a nutshell. And those people like that maybe not belong. They have to put their big girl panties on. It's a dog. Dogs are going to do dog things. And you know what? Right. You're paying your trainer to handle your dog and train your dog. So let him do his job. And we have enough pressure on us anyway. We don't need that in our mind. We do not need that in our mind because we have enough. So what happens with that is, let's say that trainer had multiple dogs there. If that owner gets in that trainer's ear about his dog, he's going to make mistakes on the other dogs that aren't his. So keep your damn mouth shut and maybe talk to him after the test the next week. He don't need to be running his mouth in the gallery because everybody in the gallery is going to go back and tell that trainer what he said. Yep. Now you're causing problems, and that trainer is going to make a mistake on dogs that aren't even his.
And you're just being an asshole.
You're just being an asshole.
If I'm hearing about it and I don't even know who you are, you're being an asshole.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe the dog game's not for you. But dogs make mistakes, and usually those owners like that. Usually, when you pass, you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. But when you fail, you're an asshole. So they're either high, low. You got to take the good and the bad, and just understand that it's not going to be perfect. They're an animal, and I always say this: like, understand and love the process of watching your dog, succeed and build and grow and learn into these things. And don't just sit back there and badmouth shit when something goes wrong, because your kid might have played high school football, but you're not going to scream at the damn coach who doesn't make the NFL. It's the dog or the kid's fault too. Maybe the handler and the trainer did everything perfect. The dog made a mistake. They're an animal. They're a living, breathing creature. They think. So keep your damn mouth shut.
Yeah, I knew you'd like that.
That fired me up.
I knew you'd like that one.
I don't think people understand how hard we actually work.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, nobody cares more about passing dogs than we do. I promise you, you do not care more than I do. I promise you. Because we want to do well. People spend a lot of money to have us do our thing, and we take that to heart. When dogs don't pass, I take it personally because I should have done better, or the dog, it bothers me. But I don't sit there and bitch about it. I just try to work a little bit harder.
All right, let's do one more question, and then we'll close this one down. We've got other questions we can hit on the next one. This is from Austin, Riehl.
Real?
3-year-old female, master qual level dog, soft dog. I did her basics, but never spent real time teaching her channel blinds and down the shore concepts. My fuck up, I know. My question is, should I redo her water program and go back through swim by, channel blinds, down the shores, cheating signals, etc., and reteach it in the proper way? I know it won't be as good as if I had done it the right way to begin with. What are your opinions?
I would 100% go back to that. So if you're following our flow chart, after you do water force and swim by, do D-cheat. Do the D-cheat drill, and then really concentrate on teaching her those concepts. Because if you're going to run master and quals, you've got to have those concepts, or you're screwed. So go back, and it's not going to be, yeah, there's going to be some stuff that the dog, maybe take longer to learn because that saying is you can't teach old dogs new tricks. Well, that's partially true. It's just going to take a little bit longer, and I would 100% go back and reteach that. 100. I was watching Tanner the other day. Tanner's got a bunch of finished dogs in his truck and a bunch of young seasoned dogs who've all been through D-cheating, who've all been through those things. And I watched him one afternoon, worked till 7 o'clock, doing D-cheat on some of the dogs that he saw cheat in the test before. So he's taking some of them dogs back just to touch up their stuff. You got to understand something. I did algebra when I was a freshman in high school. I don't know shit about algebra now. So you got to go back and revisit some of that stuff. So I would 100% do that.
All right. Well, good questions, everyone. Again, Facebook group for questions, Instagram account. If you want to get a hold of us for any reason, probably the best way to do that
Elliott.
the best way to do that is going to be on the Instagram. DMs on Instagram is going to be the best way to do that to get a hold of us for something. But
we're going to have some guests on here coming up pretty soon. We're going to talk Boykins. Not today.
Nice.
We are going to talk Boykins with the Boykin people of the world. We got Rhett Riddle and Blaine Tarnecki lined up to do a podcast, and they're the Boykin people of the world. And we're going to talk Boykins and how different they are than ever. But that's going to come up in the next couple episodes. That'll be fun.
Sweet. Well, let's
Blaine
talk off.
Blaine is my. How am I going to say this nicely? He has a longer Snapchat streak with Rhett than I do.
Yours is every day for how many years?
4.5 years. He's every day for 4 years and 4 3/4 years, something like that. So he's constantly giving me shit about he's a better friend to Rhett than I am because I don't have the longest Snapchat streak. So I'm going to have him on here. It'll be fun.
That's great. This will be our first third-time guest because Rhett's already been on twice, I think. This will be our first third visit.
Don't make it a problem if it's not a problem.
Everyone loves Rhett. I love it when you guys were just raking him over the coals in that one podcast about the shooting and everything. You look at his face; he doesn't seem to care at all. He just sits there like, I don't care, whatever.
He's so used to it. He's like, hey guys, like smack him down. He's great. He's great. But he's got a great sense of humor and he takes it well, and that'll be a fun podcast to do eventually.
All right. Well, that's it for today, and we will see you guys on the next one.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. See everybody at the line. Take dead aim.
Gotta strike this chord with the humble hearts. Bearing heavy chains and blue collar